Can you see what happens? A fake identity. You see what I said a few minutes ago is that we have a real self. A real self. If I let these dry, they don't write. You have a real self which will emerge if it gets love. And when it doesn't emerge, a false self takes its place. And the false self is also called negative self, secondary self, Satan self, bad self. A lot of parents who learn this system talk to their little kids this way. That was mommy's bad self. A monster had me. The bad self, fake self, secondary self. Why do we call it a secondary self? Because it isn't the first self. The primary self is real. It's your spirit self. It's good. It's the little innocent child that needs to go through those stages. Secondary self, false self, bad self, devil self. What else do we call the negative self?
Evil self.
Evil, yeah. Devil, evil. Survival self. That's the one I was looking for. Why do we call it a survival self? Because it's what you had to do to survive in a non-nourishing environment, namely a loveless environment or a dysfunctional home or school or marriage. What does dysfunction mean? DYS means no, negative, won't work. It doesn't function. It won't work. Dysfunctional means the love supplies the seed needs to nourish itself are not there at all, or even the opposites are there, or enough. So it's the quality and the quantity of these love supplies that causes dysfunction. And the self, another one is survival self, mutation self. An angry person is a mutated self. When I used to live in France, and a person was weird, he was grouchy, mean, depressed, angry, they would say, "Un ours mal léché." What does that mean, Carson? A badly licked bear. Anyone speak French in here? "Un ours mal léché." A badly licked bear. Mommy bears lick their babies. Do humans lick their babies? No. But they hold them and nurse them and stroke them and pat them. The other day I was in church, and in front of me was a mommy and a 12-year-old boy and a 16-year-old daughter. And this 12-year-old boy, leaning on his mother's shoulder, twirling her hair, stroking her skin. A couple years ago, he'd fall asleep on her lap. That boy will never do porn. He's got a mommy. And sometimes he doesn't get to sit by the mommy. He's by the 17-year-old daughter, and she puts her arm around him, rubs his back, and he leans on her shoulder and twirls her hair. Has this boy been rejected by a female? He's 12. I bet you when he's 16, he's going to have his arm. I got 40-year-old daughters who will come home and sit on my lap. Hey, good. You're getting a little heavy, Julie. Shut up, Dad. False mutation. Give them that they need. Okay, we did these good. Now let's go into. There's something I want to say about these cycles. I'm so glad I have these notes here. There's a theory about these stages. Now watch. Every 13 to 15 years, the child, the person, us included, will go through the stages again. Like, watch. What happens in adolescence? Have you ever seen adolescents? Go to an adolescent dance, and you see these kids, 12, 13, 14, 15, following each other like a herd of animals. They're going through the infancy stage all over again with peers. You get it? So remember, the main idea in the infancy stage was enmeshed. Enmeshed. That means to be one. As I and the Father are one, right? Be one. not my will, but thine be done. Enmeshed. And so a little baby is enmeshed. Tonight before I came, I had an apple, some cheese, and 3 almond nuts because I want a perfect balance of fats, protein, and carbs. And here comes my little 2-year-old granddaughter. She looks at me. What is she going to eat? Apple, cheese, 3 almonds. Enmeshed. She wants to be like Grandpa. B1. Now watch. Teenagers are enmeshed in the infancy stage, first with mommy, and now in the infancy stage with peers. Peers are their God. Their clothes, their money. Ginny said she didn't like me. My nose is too big. I'm going to kill myself. She's enmeshed with peers. Think about enmeshment with humans. And then think about enmeshment with God. Remember when I said if a mommy gets all of her love supplies from God and gives them to the little baby and gives them to her husband, sharing from your fullness is the true definition of love. Taking to fill your emptiness is the true definition of need. If the mommy is full of love that she gets from God, from her own God self, she will give her love to the little baby, to her husband. She doesn't need her husband. She doesn't need the baby. She's sharing from her fullness. As the baby gets weaned from mommy, it will go to its peers, and one day, as the stages go, it will get weaned from humans. And it will be totally enmeshed with God. You get it? Good counseling is stepping stones to our source, the major source of love, which is whoever made us, right? So if the mommy does not get her love supplies from God, and she's not weaned from people, she's still getting her love from her husband. I know so many women who, they get their love from God, they come home, they fall in love with a guy, they start dumping God as a major love source, and they use their boyfriend, their spouse, for major love supplies. And then living with him is a mess, and they're not getting it from him anymore because he's always gone and blah, blah, blah. So they'll get it from the baby. And then they'll wonder why their baby never gets love supplies from God. It's not romantic love to be totally dependent on your spouse. What is true romantic love? Sharing from your fullness, not taking to fill your emptiness. So you see the business of giving and taking. And so enmeshment is a wonderful, wonderful word. Well, every time I talk about this, people will raise their hand. Dr. Ellsworth, what is the difference between codependency and enmeshment? It's very important. The baby has to be enmeshed with his mommy to get autonomy. We have a saying, from full aloneness comes the ability to have full togetherness. From full togetherness, the baby with the mom, enmeshment is full togetherness, comes the ability one day to be totally alone and love it. Why? Because they're getting their love from God, where mommy got hers. They're able to be alone. Instead, oh, it's Friday night, it's Saturday night. I don't have something to do. I'll die. I better go have some more hamburgers and chocolate sundaes. And, right? Enmeshment and codependency are entirely different. Should we be enmeshed with human beings at our age? No. Should we be enmeshed with God? Yes. Should we be dependent on God? Totally. Should we be independent from humans? Yes. Will there ever be a day when we're independent from God? Well, we don't know. Right now, we're doing getting independent from humans, enmeshed with Him, and independent from humans, and then we can share from our fullness with humans, and all the humans we love from our fullness will then progress to independence. And they'll be full, and they won't die when we die, and they won't get depressed and crash when we crash. You see, when we